What am I to do?
Welcome to He Said, She Said Razor Branding Podcast with Michael Russo and Jaci Russo. To learn more about how to improve your brand, visit brandRUSSO.com.
Hi, y'all. Welcome to the podcast. Michael, our guest today. Why are you making a face? Already you're making a face. What's the face?
Hi. Why is it? Hi, y'all. Are we in
We're
the country
in
western
South
hour?
Louisiana. We say y'all.
All right, Dolly Parton. I mean, come on.
Oh, that was not a Tennessee, y'all. I don't have a drawl. I am just being my authentic self, Michael, which is exactly what we talked about with Juliana in this podcast today. Companies that are not their authentic selves cannot build brands. I stand by it no matter what.
That's true. No, I think she was. I very much enjoyed it. You're right. We looked up and the hour was almost over. And yeah, just and she had me right away. She started talking about things that we talk about, and that's always a good indicator. Emotional connections and
B2B to B2C
and B2B, all that. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, in her work as a fractional CMO, which is interesting as hell, and just her vast experience and being a consultant and kind of a which is, I don't know, it's kind of appealing, the idea of that, of being kind of.
Are you going to run off and join the circus? Do I need to worry about you?
No, not anytime soon, because that's not in my purvey. I would be unemployed and homeless very quickly if I was.
I will not let you be homeless. You always have a home, I promise.
Yes. I need the Batman to my Robin, or Robin to my Batman.
Yeah. Okay. Hello. Let's get it right, buddy.
Whatever.
Wait, do you think you're Batman and I'm Robin?
Sometimes I'm Batman.
Are you?
Sometimes I'm Batman.
Okay. We may have to get a list going of when that happens. I'm curious.
When it counts, Jaci. When it counts.
Oh, okay, Michael. I'll let you have that.
When there's a bug.
Wait, when you feel like Batman, maybe that's when I'm Wonder Woman. Maybe we're fighting crime together.
Fair.
Okay. But there are definitely some times where you make me Robin when I have to organize your calendar and make sure you show up for your appointments. That's kind of a Robin thing. So
we have once again delved into territory we do not need to delve into. So
I really think that people like it because we get such positive feedback on our asides that I am committed to being real and authentic.
Or they're very uncomfortable. They're like, oh my God.
It could go either way.
Again.
It really could go either way. Listen, I know I mentioned this to you, but we'll do it in this intro, which I feel bad for Juliana because she's like, when's it my turn to talk? But it was fascinating the other day. I was in a pitch meeting with a company that reached out to us that wanted us to do their marketing. Really great, very exciting work. I'm really looking forward to it. I feel like they're going to say yes. But what I loved about it was I was introducing you, but they hadn't met you yet. I was talking about your role at the company and what you do. And the CEO, COO and CMO cut me off almost simultaneously and together said, we read the book. And I was like, our book? You read our book? And they're like, yeah, that's how we found you. And I thought, oh, I love that because they already know the crazy that they're about to hire. So That's good.
Yeah, if you can get past the first chapter and realize that there's actually some really good marketing stuff in there. Yeah,
yeah, once you get past our first date, there's real work involved. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right, enough about us. Y'all stick around and listen to Juliana because she is awesome.
When the day is through.
Juliana, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Well, thanks for being here. I am very excited because I think that every time we talk to somebody who's in a different space, a different aspect, has a different approach to marketing, it's something new that we can all learn. And so when you and I met previously and we started talking about your role and what you've been doing, I was like, okay, this is a new story that we get to tell. And I love that. So maybe we start with kind of what you're doing now and how you're doing it. And then we can roll into some of the details.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of giving very high level overview of how I ended up where I am now. I started my career in B2C, somehow made the transition to the dark side of B2B, as I call it, but have been here now for over 10 years and really enjoyed it. Had a great exit from a SaaS company and decided to go into consulting to work with different companies. So which actually is great, similar to you, is that you get to see all these different businesses and get to solve different problems, which I love. So that's what I've been doing now is marketing consulting and fractional work and project-based work. It really depends on the needs at that time in that moment at the company. What do they need today?
Right. So talk a little bit about the B2C, B2B, if you don't mind, because I think people don't appreciate how many differences there are and how many similarities. And so, we all make the jokes about, B2C, they have all the money, all the glory. B2B, it's the dark side, it's the hard work. But at the end of the day, it's about connecting with people. And so talk a little bit about your experience of how maybe you leverage one for the other and how you make those kind of mesh together in your brain.
That's such an interesting question because I haven't met too many people who've had both sides doing marketing. Even though I kind of had the tech on both sides because I came in on e-commerce. So very much like B2C right when it was starting.
Hardcore B2C.
Yeah, hardcore B2C is for sure. So the really interesting thing that I noticed immediately with B2B marketing is that with B2C, they thrive a lot on the emotional connection, right? Like I worked at Ralph Lauren. I was there for a bit. When you think about polo, you think like equestrian and that super stylish kind of look, right? Like that's an emotional lifestyle reaction. You don't have that with B2B, right? Like Salesforce isn't a lifestyle necessarily, unless you work there, right? It doesn't really kind of evoke that feeling. And B2B companies tend to cling really heavily to describing offerings and products and services and all of that. Whereas like B2C kind of leans in more into that kind of lifestyle and that emotional side. And so I feel like with B2B companies, you see often that they treat their decision makers as companies rather than collections of individuals or people, right? Because they're not tapping into that emotional bit as much. Whereas B2C is really good now at looking at the individual and being like, what exactly do you want? I just bought a chandelier the other day. Those ads are still chasing me around the internet for that same chandelier. And
30 days, sister. They're going to follow you for a month.
They are going to follow me and they know exactly what I want. So they're showing all the great similar ones that I'm now considering if I should buy them. And so, so they really kind of know you well. Whereas like B2B is really good at tapping into the problem, the need, solution, how we can help, how we're different, like all those pieces, the regular ones, but they're still missing that kind of how do we make your life easier? So I feel like there's a lot that could be applied to B2B from the B2C side, which, on that level that I don't think a lot of companies are thinking about as deeply. Also, so as I like to say, B2C is like they're sort of inverted well, not inverted. They're kind of the opposite. Where B2C, the funnel is a mile wide, an inch deep, right? Click, 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 you're done. Whereas B2B is an inch wide, a mile deep. And there's a lot of friction, and so how can we think about ways to remove that friction? And there's a number of different ways you can do that. Like, can we do a pilot? Can we do a try before you buy? Can we do some sort of guarantee? Like, you can return a product when you buy it. Is there the equivalent for B2B, like the guarantee that you're going to get certain outcomes? I don't know. Like some companies are doing that well. Other ones like need to kind of be a little bit more creative, I think, in that area. So those are kind of some of the ones that come to mind here is that also, sorry, just to add a third.
No, you're doing great. You're making Michael so happy. He's writing like massive lists of questions right now. He can't wait to ask.
Oh no.
You're speaking his language.
Oh, that's great. Oh, good. I just got off a call with the head of partnerships at one of my clients. Great guy, super smart. And we spend 30 minutes a week trying to brainstorm how I can support from a marketing perspective, his partnership work. And one of the areas we talked about today that I was asking him about, which I think is very relevant here, is influencers. Mm-hmm. I don't love that term because it sounds like the girl on YouTube putting on the makeup and all
the Kardashian,
the Kardashian or whatever it might be. But how do we find those people with that really like gung-ho following that just loves them, 50,000 followers, whatever it might be, who really could get excited about the product? You're not just paying them $50,000 to like the product. It's like they actually are those users. And how do we do more of that? And so I think that there's something to be learned there as well. So I'm not giving you great answers, but more like these are the areas that I think people could kind of look at a little bit more and examine from B2C to B2B.
Right.
No, I think they are great, actually. And I think, you are definitely speaking our language. We talk a lot about those things, and because we also kind of made our bones coming up doing consumer work. And like I was talking earlier with you off camera, we try to bring, the B2C mentality into the B2B world a lot of times. And the rub that we get the hard part is the emotional part, because it's in our language. We talk about emotional connections, and people get scared of that in the business world. And I don't understand. I understand why, but I'm like, look, it's not happy or sad. We're talking about a feeling, just like, I like this. That's an emotion. Like, why do I like this? They made my life easier. They made me look good in front of my boss. They got the job done without any problems. That's emotional. That is something that made me happier that day, or fulfilled, or whatever you want to put the terms on it. Yeah, security, whatever it may be. But those are all tied in, I think, to that brand loyalty of why I like something or why I don't.
That's right.
I think we get hung up on the Coke factor. You know, like, man, Coke makes me feel like I'm a kid, and 13-year-old kid in the summertime. Well, you're right. Totally. Businesses don't do that. You're not going to have the same reaction to that. And one other thing too, just before I forget, because you talked about the influencer thing, we talked to somebody just the other day, and I was fascinated by what they had on their website. They were a large tax group in the Northeast, and they on their website they had an alumni page, and I thought that was brilliant. They had all the people that worked for them over the years, and they have like network and a party, and so it works on so many levels. But it also works as the ambassadorship. Like, if you have people that come and go for you, and they're out there talking good things about you, they're part of the alumni club. And I just thought it was a really smart way to get your voice outside.
Okay, well, I just wrote that down. Sorry, I'll give you credit when I use that with one of my clients. So, but that's really smart. And that's a really good point, because we think a lot about former, like, past clients and past customers, like, oh, they now, like, that kind of alumni, now they move to this company here, they're going to bring us in there. But you don't think about the actual employees. But of course, that depends if the company is really great to work at.
Are you? Yes.
Because it's like, why did you leave the company? Like, why are you an alumni? Like, hopefully it's for a good reason. So that can also go both ways. But that's a really good point.
True. Yeah. And the immortal words of Tom Cruise from the movie Cocktail, he said, things don't end unless they end badly. And I think, that's his opinion. And sometimes that's the truth. I mean, like, why would things end if they didn't end? Like, I don't know if you know the movie or the scene, but she's breaking up with him, and she says, I don't want it to end badly. Well, it wouldn't end if it wasn't bad, that kind of thing. Yeah. And hopefully you can curb those things. Obviously there's pitfalls and things that don't go well. But if you're able to put that up on your website and tout that as a thing of your company, I just think it's golden,
Yeah, totally.
And I don't think it always ends badly. I mean, I think about companies where I worked early in my career. I got to a certain point, and it was logical that my next step was at a different company. That's okay. We left as friends. I like them. They like me. No hard feelings. I mean, sure, there are some where it was a bad breakup, but it can be a good, not breakup, but separation and move on. So I love that alumni thing. And we talked to her a lot about it, because it really shows so much about the company culture that you value people even when they don't still work there.
That's a really good point. That's really interesting, compelling. I'm gonna noodle on that a little bit, because I'm like, how to make that work. It's like exactly that, where you can, tread that line carefully. With certain employees, because there's always going to be some challenges with people leaving. But
for sure,
absolutely.
But
for sure. And so not only have you, I think, spent time in the B2B world and the B2C world, but you've dealt with, Series A investment startups. And so that's a whole different. So walk me through how you approach kind of each of those. What's your mindset when you're taking on a new challenge, whether it's an in-house role, a consulting client? Where do you start?
So is this kind of like for specifically a Series A or any
whatever you want to start, walk me through it, because I think it's a similar but different process every time.
Oh yeah. Oh, completely. That's why I was like, should I try and get more detail on the question? Because that is I mean, every time I walk in somewhere, the way I approach it is the parallel path. There's low hanging fruit. There's sort of we got to get this done in the next few weeks. And then there's, of course, a long-term strategy. And you can't just focus on one of them, right? You have to kind of balance your time to do that. And one of the ways I do that is as I'm, evaluating a client, they're evaluating me, we're dating before we get married, that kind of thing. I put together a really specific proposal, like not rigid, but just like, this is what I'm hearing as the problem that you need help with. And I take really copious notes beforehand. So it already starts way before. So, you prospect and you talk to 100 different potential clients, you get maybe 10 over time. But, I have really detailed notes on all those conversations. So by the time I start on day one, I already have a very good idea what's working, what's not, what is their most immediate need today. And that's kind of a big part of my value proposition is like, I want to help bring you results today. Like what's most important to you today, not next year. Like let's tackle today. And I build off of that. So walking in already your first week, I'm already not just assessing, I'm already in the next stage. Like I can ask deeper questions and sort of, go like more thoughtful questions, I think, than just a surface level, like, hey, so what do you do here? What's working? What's not? Like, I already know that. So like, I know what the team structure looks like. I know who's struggling with what and all of those details. So yeah, so that's kind of how I try and go in is really with that preparation and then the parallel pathing, the trio path, I don't know what to call that, like 3 parallels, to then be able to tackle all those pieces and then pulling the different levers depending on what's most important. If it's like they have a strategy problem, then it's like, okay, we're going to have to put lean into that a little bit more.
Right.
If it's kind of like, we just got like a broken database, it's like, okay, let's get some of this data cleaned up. Like some of this is going to be hard. Some of it we can get done in a week, and so it really depends on if it's short, mid and long-term need.
I love that.
Yeah, and we talk about that a lot. It's come up more and more in the past year. We've been talking to a lot of marketers and in-house and independents, that kind of thing. And it's been fascinating to see the common threads that people have. And one of the biggest things we talked about just the other day was when you walk into something. First of all, you have to deal with the rebound issue. I'm so stuck on this because think about it. Every new client you have is leaving another client, and usually they left unhappy because something didn't work out, or it didn't work out, and so they're like, you're like dealing with you're the rebound agency or marketer, and so you have to come in and pick up the pieces sometimes, and you have to figure out, and there's trust issues and all this stuff, so it's so relational, right? And then on top of that, sometimes you have to just start with getting the house in order before you can do any kind of marketing. You're talking about databases and things like that. When you walk in there and you realize, man, I can't do anything until we do this. And so you have to back up and like, okay, I'm not even doing what I was hired to do anymore. Now I'm doing human resources. I'm doing counseling. I'm doing, I'm trying to get everybody back on board so we can move forward with the marketing. Because otherwise, we're talking about, you can shine something, but you got to make sure it works. And so the challenges in that, I think, are very real. And which led me to thinking about, I would love to hear more about your fractional CMO, because like when you walk into that role, what is that like? Because I've always been in agency life. So like when you walk into a business and you jump into a leadership role, basically for a team like that, how does that work? Like, I'm fascinated by it.
Yeah. So I'll give a couple of examples that are completely different. So actually I could give several more, but one, sometimes I've walked in, it's an earlier stage company and I'm the first marketer they've ever had. So they're kind of like, what could marketing look like here? And so I help them figure out like, well, what are your goals? Let's go through the OKR, like, let's build out the business together and then come up with a budget, being like, this is what, if you're going to go to your board and say, I need a marketing team or hire someone full time, this is like kind of what you need to do. Right. So that's a very like not coming in and fixing things. That's like the building from scratch and the architecting, which I love to do. Another company I walked into, actually, it's a private equity backed company. They were acquired by a private equity company and merged with another company at the same time.
Oh, wow.
And it all happened. So you can imagine how complicated that is. It's not just a company being acquired. Now you've got these 2 entities that have to be rolled under one company. So they chose one of the companies that had the stronger brand name here in the US. The other one was European, and they rolled everyone into that. So you have 2 separate teams, 2 separate systems for HubSpot instances, Salesforce, whatever it is. Like everyone's even basic things like email and SharePoint and like, just being able to collaborate was a challenge, right? And so they, of course, had an integration specialist come in and do that. They brought me in because it was so funny. Essentially the CRO or head of growth came from company A, and then the head of marketing was a director from company B, and they were going to have the marketing director report into the head of growth. And so these are people who haven't worked together before. Like the director was a bit junior, like strong doer, but not as much a strategist.
Yep.
And so that's how I kind of came in was, okay, what does the marketing team look like here? And also evaluate the team, given that so many people were being kind of stitched together, if you will. That sounds awful, but they were, the whole team was, right? So that was a really interesting challenge. And they didn't have like really any marketing happening. And all those other challenges there. A third example that's great was actually a family-owned business. I've worked with all sorts of like VC-backed, PE-backed, family-owned, which has been so great. But this family-owned business, they brought me in to support the existing VP and the team they had. And also to evaluate like what should marketing look like, help them with building out a strategy. They also needed a lot of messaging and positioning work. They didn't have a product marketer or a positioning kind of marketer. They were services business that's now looking to build tech, that kind of thing. And so how do you transition that and think about that sales motion and marketing motion? And so that was interesting. And I came in and helped them hire a CMO because it was like at the end, talking to the CEO and the VP and other people, it was like, you know what, we need someone a little bit more senior and strategic. So that was kind of a different thing. I was a fractional, but I wasn't like running the team. Whereas at this other company with the private equity back, that I was running the team. I'm like, part of the leadership team and, that whole piece. So it's been a very different, I hope that answers your question. There's a lot of different examples.
Well, and on that note too, just one other thing, like how do you approach, because I think everybody goes through this, especially if you're moving around in different worlds and you're kind of coming in and teaching them how to feed for themselves and that kind of thing. Like when the importance of a marketing director and an agency relationship, like a lot of times we're brought in by the president, right, of a big company, and they spring it on their team and say, "Oh, by the way, I hired this agency." Now they're threatened. They're not happy. And you could feel it in the room. Like there's no. Now you got to work with these people, and it's just that's usually a sign for disaster. Like it's not going to work out. Somebody's going home at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So how do you walk into those environments where when that does happen, or the communication isn't as good and you feel that threat? How do you get everybody just to say, look, I'm here to help. Like I'm part of the team. I want us all to succeed. I'm not threatening anybody's job, because it's a real thing. I think from both sides, from a marketing person that's in-house when they bring in somebody and from an agency that walks into that environment. How do you have a process, or does that ever cross your mind? Have you ever had that issue?
Yeah. I mean, there have been situations that are kind of tricky where, maybe they are looking for staffing changes. So then you find out after you're there that was why they brought you in. And then that's the kind of like, oh, I didn't realize that, and that can be sticky. I mean, but I would say with that, I make it very clear when I'm coming in, like I'm coming in for a purpose and I'm being additive, not replacing. And so it's kind of that idea of sort of touting the, like, I'm adding to what's like to the outcome. I'm not trying to detract or push anyone to the side. Like the whole idea is to try and be able to like raise everyone up. And so trying to have that attitude in speaking with everyone on the team. Again, you can't control, and this, like as a vendor, a consultant, like outside party, you can't control ultimately what the team is going to do with their internal team, right? Like we don't come in unless you're brought in to, like that's your job is to do kind of that HR stuff, but otherwise we're there to do the work. So I haven't really encountered issues, honestly, but again, it's like by keeping my proposal pretty tight in terms of like, here is the outcome that I'm coming in to do. And it's not about like replacing this person that you want me to evaluate them. Great, I'll do that. But that's part of the job. And they should know that if I'm working with them. Right. And so I don't know. I mean, it's a tough one. It is tough.
It's so important though, too. It's so important. Like most of our clients are not anywhere near us. And so we can't be there every day. You need that marketing support in town. You need to have boots in the ground. You need to have that relationship. And our most successful clients, and luckily we've had a bunch for many, many years as retainer clients. And that's always starts with a marketing director. It always starts with somebody who is open. They're not threatened, and they really listen to the advice. They don't just take orders either. They're communicating. They're
it's
bridging
a collaboration.
The gap between completely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. one of the things that I think we're kind of talking around, so I want to dive into
Yeah.
just a little bit, is the emotional connection. We believe that drives branding. We believe that's what the B2C people do so very well and the B2B people do so badly. So how do you look for opportunities, or what do you do when you find that opportunity in the B2B space to really bring in that emotional connection? Do you have some examples of times when you felt like we nailed it, whether it's your clients or just stuff you saw other people doing? Like, how does that evolve and not make the B2B people kind of freak out and feel like, oh, they're talking about feelings?
Yeah. That's a great question. I'm trying to think like what my ethos is on this, so like pontificate. I really, I think it's about sorting through, kind of marrying what you stand for as a company, like in terms of values, like what kind of company are you, and approachability, right?
Like that.
How playful you are with, some brands are super playful. Like you look at Wiz, for example, they call the people who work there wizards. It's this big cybersecurity company, right? And they have like, they're very, like their website and everything they do is just kind of delightful. It's like a great word, and then you have other companies that might be a little bit more on the serious side, especially in cybersecurity or legal or, accounting, like those types of businesses might be, much more on the serious side. But like, how do you, create that emotional connection by still making it approachable? Like you still want your lawyer to be approachable if you go see him or her in their office, right? Like, regardless if it's a very serious kind of area. So how do you kind of bring that smile to the website, right? And so I think, or to the, the experience, I should say, and like thinking of it as bigger, right? It's not just one piece of marketing collateral, it is an experience. And that's a big question that a lot of brands I've worked with try and figure out. It's like, how do we do the sort of services with a smile or software with a smile kind of thing? And what does that mean for us? And it's like, and usually what I like to do is think about, without getting too touchy feely, the way, saying like, well, how do you want your customers to feel? Which is obviously getting into that feely side. And some businesses can handle that conversation. Others might be a little bit, not as comfortable. But really thinking about more like, well, what are your values? Like, what are your employees like? What's it like to work there? And some of them, they start talking about it. I'm like, that's amazing. Make your customers feel that.
Right.
Where they're like, and that's the great moment is when you can kind of marry those things, be like, this is the company values. Now let's like make our customers feel like that. So, maybe that can bridge the gap.
No, I like that. And I like that you brought up Wiz. One of the companies that I think has done that so well, and I think they're a pretty popular example these days, although I feel successful that I kind of early on identified them because I've been using them in examples for my speeches for like 12 years now. But Blend Tech, they had that really great YouTube series with the industrial blenders, and the CEO would like blend up stuff he found around the office.
That's
to
funny.
me,
Yeah, that's right.
that was just an opportunity to take a pretty boring product. It's an industrial blender. It's not real exciting.
Yeah.
But the show, the YouTube show they made around it, when they blended up, I mean, I remember them blending iPhones and Justin Bieber CDs and skis. And it was like, it's a way to show off the product's durability and abilities without being a features list.
Yeah.
It was entertaining. People are like, what are they going to blend next?
Well, that's the thing, right? It's the individual thing. Like we all know what a phone is. Everyone has a phone. So you go and blend not everyone has like an accounting problem in their business, so, or whatever.
But very few people need industrial blenders.
Yeah, exactly.
And yet their sales went through the roof because they found an entertaining, emotionally connecting way to take their product and share it with people. They weren't caught up in, wait, a very small segment of the audience needs us, so we're not going to market beyond that segment. I'm all about customer segmentation, but with personality, with an attitude, with a campaign that gets people's attention. And so I go back to that one often of like, what's our blend tech? What is our way to talk about industrial blenders, snore, but in an interesting way. And so I think that's what our B2B brothers and sisters miss. They're so focused on not being B2C, and they just stay rooted in this features list that is a snore fest.
Well, I think it's hard to stay the course too. I'm sorry, because it's just, whenever sometimes we start with this brand assessment and we go in, we do 6 to 8 weeks of research and we put together a campaign and a launch and all these different things. And we try to address all the problems and understand the audience, all good stuff. And usually there's just one great idea and we try to roll it out. And not saying all of our current clients, because we have some great ones and they do listen and they do, they do the thing. But a lot of times I find like halfway through, people start to get nervous and they start to shift back and they start to, let me go back to, that's not the way we used to do it. And I'm more comfortable with this. And they don't get all in. They don't buy all in, and like I wrote a win back campaign the other day for a client of ours. And they have 2 agencies working for this broadband company. And one agency, they're a little more fun and whimsical for the residential side. We do the business side. Right. And this win back campaign was all about like, hey, we noticed we haven't called in a while and we're kind of missing you. And it was very whimsical and just fun. And it was, but it was this series of emails and really directly talking to people and their problems, like if you had, if it was a butcher shop, it was like, we missed this part of it, whatever it was really connecting, but they totally like, oh, I don't know. It's not us. It's not comfortable with it. I'm still fighting for it. But it was one of those things where they just couldn't see outside of that. I'm like, it's the same people, residential and business. The business people still are residents. They still they're still people. They still go home every night. They still have kids. They still have sense of humor. They still have things. And especially in that space, it just, it's hard to get out of your own way sometimes.
Yeah. I think the one question, not to turn this toward you guys, but I did have a question because something I have been struggling with one client that came up was they want to be really playful and approachable, but it's in a way that's just a little too much. And the buyers, I mean, here is where you get into the know your buyer, right?
Yes.
Where it's like, are they going to find it funny? And so that's the thing where it's like, we're trying to figure out like, okay, what does funny look like to that segment? Right. And so that, because it's not a service or a product that's particularly broad either. And it's not a blender where you could do something kind of funny. Like, I mean, it's a blender. Everyone's like, oh, it's an industrial blender. Here it's like a different type of service. So, we're trying to figure out what funny or eye-catching looks like. And so that's something that we're still kind of going back and forth on. I don't know how you approach that in terms of how do you come up with the blend tech?
Well, for me, Jackie's different than I am. We're two different sides of the coin. Jackie's a blend tech girl. She's like the pun, the clever thing, whatever it is. I'm not that guy. I'm more. I would like if that problem came to me, and I love those problems.
How would you describe yourself, Michael?
Not that.
Okay.
We rarely do we pitch the same meeting, but usually when she does, she'll throw something out there, and I'm like, what did you just do? Now they're going to probably love it. And now we're stuck with it. And it happens way too often.
And the client loves it. I want everybody to hear he just said, and the client loves it. Keep going.
Oh,
keep going.
Anyway, but I love the challenges of that. And that's why I do like working in B2B because it is challenging. I'm more of a writer these days. And the humor side of it, you can be snarky, you can be sarcastic, you can use metaphors, you can take the opposite side. We say a lot of our kind of mantra here is change the conversation. So like if it's something that they're expecting, I'm going to turn it upside down and say it differently in a way.
Yeah.
So it may not be funny or humorous or anything like that, but if it makes you pause and say, oh, that's different than what I'm hearing. I want to rock the boat a little bit, And so finding those angles into it, like I said, with Jackie, it's a whole other thing. She wants the gorilla jumping from the roof or whatever it is, something big and bombastic. Right. And that's not bad. It's always, those things work too. It's just different approaches.
I mean, I did come up with something for this company and it's a very bold idea. I was surprised that they were interested and it looks like they're going to go for it. So I'm excited about that, but it's definitely one of those things like, ooh, you guys are going there, aren't you? And it's like, yeah, we are. So I'm excited, in the future, I'll let you know if they pull it off, which I
please. Well, but I want to, because Michael kind of gave his approach and my approach is a little bit differently. Yeah. And I think the two sides are sort of how we develop razor branding and why we're able to
Right.
do such good work for our clients. Because for me, it starts with interviews, to go and talk to their
Yeah.
current happy customers. Do you see
Yeah.
this company as whimsical? Do you see this product as being funny or humorous or clever or sly? What do you see them as? Because it has to be authentic. And so I was at a luncheon earlier today with one of my trainers, because we do professional development training for companies, and she does the talent side. And so Michelle was talking about companies that live their brand and how important that is. And so she said, when I say Chick-fil-A,
Yeah.
what do you all think of? And everybody said, great service. She said, yep. Every time I ask that question, that's the answer I get every time. And then when she said, when I ask you how they exhibit that great service, what do you say? And the whole room said, my pleasure. And she said, exactly. No one ever talks about the chicken.
That's
No
so
one ever
funny.
complains about being in line at the drive-through, double line, 15 minutes. No one ever, so she starts talking about other things. And she said, now, if you go to Popeyes, people are like, bad service. Yeah, but people go there. But you're not going to get a my pleasure from Popeyes. And so whatever the marketing is going to be, the campaign, the vibe, the message, it has to connect. It has to be authentic and real. If we start putting out there this whole campaign concept around humor, for example, and you actually connect with the company online, in person, at a trade show, and they are those super serious, technical salespeople. Oh my gosh, what a disconnect.
Yeah.
So it's got to start with understanding how they are currently seen. And then you can hold up the mirror to say, this is how people see you. Is this how you want to be? Is this right? Is this real? Is this how you want to be seen? This brand audit is going to really show you that there's a disconnect between how you see yourself and how the world sees you. We got to get that right. And then that's the jet fuel that the campaign rides on.
I think everybody wants to be a Red Bull. Everybody wants to be that, hey, I'm going to do something outrageous and I want to go viral. And if I do something really crazy, then it'll catch on. And like sometimes maybe that you're rolling the dice with that and it's your money if you want to kind of just guess and hope for the best. But yeah, you're right. I mean, there's usually writing on the wall. And if you look close enough, you do your research, it'll tell you which direction you kind of should go in,
Right. Yeah. And it's almost
Sometimes.
like what I was saying about values, right? Like at the end of the day, you start with the customer, like the company, be like, what do you even stand for? Not even mission, vision, like, who are you?
Yeah.
What's your personality?
Yeah.
You kind of see like the disconnect there. Like you said, where does it match up? Yeah.
Well, and it makes me crazy how many companies don't know themselves well enough. And so they end up trying to either do themselves or talk their agency into doing for them some marketing that's so far from truth and reality. And that's going to fail.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was talking about the other day, I put together this brief for a client there in the legal discovery space, and very smart people, way smarter than me, much more educated. But I write advertising. That's what I do. And so I put this together, this creative brief messaging that we're kind of doing for the new year. And the CEO loves marketing. And so he decided to take it and give me notes on it, which was great. Right. So I took like a 2-page document and I got back like a 36-page document with notes and footers and citings. Right. And he wrote it like a lawyer. And it was very legal and very heavy and very, and like what we do for them is we kind of translate what they have and make it more processable for everybody, because what they're doing is very heady stuff. But he wanted to turn it into something else, and that's where the pushback came from. And I love their involvement. I love that they're participating in it. But it was like we had to go 3 or 4 rounds back and forth before we could find a medium. Like we can go there, but that's not going to work. Like it's just too much. It's too much information.
Right.
Right. What I love about this conversation is I feel like for a lot of people who are in the thick of it, we all have the privilege, because I do think it's a privilege, of outside perspective. Yeah. But most of our listeners are in-house marketing directors and they're doing 100 things or 1,000 things for one company. They don't have the luxury of that outside perspective. And so for us to be able to talk to them about, hey, get yourself out of the day-to-day. Take that step back and get a 20,000 foot view. Find a way, whether they bring in a fractional CMO or a strategic brand partner agency, find a way to get some outside clarity on how you're seen by the market. Because, and correct me if I'm wrong, Juliana, but do you not hear sometimes people slip into their industry speak, their industry dialogue when they start talking about who they are and what they do? So they're talking about themselves, talking about their features, talking about their company, talking about their products. They're using all their lingo. And you watch the customer faces. I see it at trade shows all the time. And these prospects are like, I don't know what they just said. I don't want to admit it, but I have no idea what they're saying.
Yeah, and they're there like Googling like all the abbreviations you just like rattled off to see what that actually even means. Yeah, and again, that goes back to the B2C, B2B thing, which is sort of like, again, the sort of very cut and dry, I'm selling you the description of a service or a product or whatever I'm building or selling, as opposed to sort of like, oh, what are you interested in, right? And I actually like a lot of those sales tools they have now, like Gong and some other ones as well, where you can see how much you talk as a salesperson and how much the prospect talks. I love that because that it's just like this great, because salespeople are so, like, a lot of them, in my experience, they're super friendly and they get very excited. They want to chat and they're, just always going. And sometimes they just need to hit a stop sign, and kind of see that. And so
I feel personally attacked right now, but I'm going to let it go. Keep going.
Oh, no. No, but it's the same thing for me when I'm on these calls. Sometimes I'm like, oh, yikes, I got to hit a stop sign soon. Get off the highway. Right. But it's really great, you have to train yourself for that, because it is easy in your day to day to just be like, I'm used to using, oh my gosh, at Ralph Lauren, I arrived and they had actually a glossary and a dictionary of abbreviations, which was super helpful. And I got on my first day and I taped the 2 pages on the wall because I was like, what is going on here? And so it is really easy to get indoctrinated when that's like part of your onboarding or whatever. And then forget to take a step back and kind of hang out with your customers a little more to see how they talk about it.
Yes. We interviewed a chief marketing officer. I mean, it's been probably 6 months now, but it has stuck with me because I was fascinated, because I can only imagine what her daily to-do list looks like. But she carves out time every week to sit in on sales calls and to take customer service calls. And I was like, more power to you. Yes, you're doing the right thing. And I praise that, because you've built that in. You do it. Everybody on your team does it. It's crucial. And what a great way to actually not have a filtered report or, whatever the salespeople say people are saying. You're actually in it, the trenches, talking to them. And she just said, the insights that she gets, what she's able to bring to a product development meeting, a marketing meeting, a sales meeting, a C-suite meeting, it's invaluable.
Yeah. Jaci, I'll tell you, I'll take it to the next level here. Yes, listening to sales calls and customer service, especially in e-commerce. I used to do a lot of customer service, because you end up being like, it escalates, or you're just like, let me handle this. Right. My dream, if I can get a CEO and a head of sales to agree to this, is to join a company. Should I decide to go back to an incredible company full-time, we love each other, amazing, I would like to go back and spend the first 3 to 4 months selling the product and do from soup to nuts the full sales cycle. And just one. It's like, I'm not working every deal. I'm going to find a deal that's going to go through and push that through and do the whole thing, the negotiation, all of it, the selling, bringing on the sales engineer, bringing in the product person, bringing this, getting the contract, redlining, going back, the whole thing, and sell the deal and like get it through while you're doing your parallel paths. Like I mentioned before, maybe you have to skimp on a couple of things here and there to make time. That is my dream, is like coming in and actually selling the product. I want to do that. And so I don't know, like it sounds like, is it worthwhile, like taking you off marketing? And it's like, well, it absolutely is.
Yes.
Why wouldn't you want to market or doing that? And I'm not a full-time salesperson. I'm just working one deal. That's it. I'm going to source it. I'm going to get it. And so that's my dream. Now you know what I hope my aspirations.
I love it. Well, but I think you're right. And I think that's the kind of stuff that's going to separate you from the people who are just, showing up and doing the marketing stuff. The marketing stuff's not enough. It's the customer understanding stuff that really makes marketing sing.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, and what I like about you, Juliana, too, is that you've yet to throw out some big overused marketing term in this whole conversation, which I appreciate so much.
Which and one is like particular, or
no, just like there's some
Any
people
of
that try to impress with like these big textbook marketing phrases.
It's
to make it
KPI.
sound,
He really is triggered by the phrase KPI. That's what he's talking about right now.
Yes,
industry lingo.
Yes.
I mean, and I just, and I probably use them too, but I enjoy the fact that it's because I think you have to be, because we're not those people. I mean, I have a decent resume. You obviously do from your work, and we're educated, but when you're trying to constantly impress somebody with these words that maybe they don't understand the room, or trendy buzzwords or things like that, it doesn't have to be that way. There's a better way, just being more conversational in everything and communicating the value of what this is versus trying to make it sound like it's we're building a rocket. We're not. I mean, it's not that complicated.
But I mean, I think that's also like, hopefully on my part, a sign of good marketing is that you kind of get to the point, right?
Yeah.
And just kind of like, what do you do? Like, this is what usually, like, one of the things I've learned from working with a lot of tech people is like, typically the best solution is sort of the simplest and cleanest solution, right? It's like you overcomplicate it with all this stuff. Okay, fine. Sometimes there's a lot of complexity. We get it. But like sometimes the easiest, or not easiest, but simplest and cleanest solution is what you're looking for. And so it's like, we should talk that way and not be like, unlock the power of AI that blah, blah, blah. It's like, I don't know.
What's your spirit animal? I saw a brain stamp the other day and they had spirit animals. I'm like, what the hell?
If you were a tree, what kind of tree would you be?
Yeah, as a brand. I'm like, stop that. Stop that right now.
Just, who are you?
Yeah. It's like smoke and mirrors. Like it's smoke and mirrors. The value of the work should be there on its own. I have to prove my worth or prove my value somehow in the process. Yeah. And I don't know. I think it gives everybody a tough battle to get through,
Yeah.
Yep, it really does. It really does. All right, I'm going to end it right here because this is too good. And so, this is what I like, though. These conversations, I know it's good when they fly by and I look up and I'm like, how has it already been almost an hour? Juliana, this was perfect and great and awesome. Tell the people where they can find you, because we're going to have it in the show notes too.
Oh, absolutely. So I do have a website. And actually, speaking of, Michael, to your point, like not using buzzwords, which I really appreciate, I do not use the word growth anywhere on my site. And that is on purpose. As like, if I'm a marketer and I have to tell you I grow business or focus on growth, then I mean, that seems implied, So my website is jpereiraconsulting.com. So, and also my email, Juliana@jpereiraconsulting.com. I'm also on LinkedIn. I think hopefully I come up if you search for Juliana Pereira Marketing. But yeah, that's where I live a lot in those areas.
Perfect. Juliana, thank you.
Thank you so much, Jaci and Michael. I really appreciate it. It's great being on the show.